Round and round we go. Where it stops, nobody knows. Well, actually you do, because there's a power reserve at 12 o'clock, and it can run for 50 minutes maximum. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Today, we're discussing the most talked about version of the most talked about watch of the last calendar year, the Zenith Defy El Primero 21. Very special in that it features two separate movements and two separate powertrains in one 44mm ceramic case. You can see and you can purchase this high-tech Zenith based on El Primero running gear and a little bit of Tag Heuer high horology magic on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this black ceramic Zenith Defy El Primero 21. So black ceramic, wonderfully light on the wrist. I mentioned that there's an infusion of some of the Guy Simon high horology DNA from Tag Heuer, but you can see aesthetically, it's a little bit of a splice of Zenith and Hublot DNA. Now, let's be perfectly fair, this case shape on a much smaller scale can be seen evident in the vintage early 70s Zenith references A384 and A385. So while the look is Hublish, there's no doubt that Zenith did inspire the case design, and the watch is very wearable, incredibly comfortable. If you're going to borrow a page from Hublot, do it like this. Hublot makes the big watch for the human-sized wrist. The ergonomics of this example, excellent. Zenith really went all out, creating a 44mm wide case that is 9:3, not including crown or chronograph pushers, but keeping it relatively short cropped across the wrist, 50.7mm. This is actually, if you take the solid end links into account, this 44mm watch is more compact across the wrist than a 40mm Rolex Submariner on a bracelet. It's also reasonably slim considering all that's packed into the case. Two drivetrains, two power sources, two escapements, and yet less than 15mm thick, 14.7. This black beauty will slide underneath a suit jacket, blazer, or sport jacket cuff. So surprisingly versatile. It's also surprisingly upscale. Rather than rubber, here you can see a hybrid of rubber and gator. Now this is another case where you might understand the term hybrid to work on two different levels. It's a hybrid of materials in gator, monotone stitch, and natural vulcanized rubber, and also of Zenith and Hublot design heritage, as the combination gator rubber strap is an Hublot classic, and like the Hublot straps that inspired it, it's very flexible, soft, and comfortable. Now, a little bit more inspiration from Hublot. Why not have the company logo inside the chassis of the folding clasp? Well, that we've got. This is actually black titanium, twin trigger release, so you have to positively disengage it to pop it open. It also features the minderless system so that excess strap length is actually tucked underneath when it's buckled and sized, removing the need for minder loops on the strap externally and cleaning up the aesthetic. Now moving inboard, you can see something that Omega has pioneered on the dark side of the moon that's slowly filtering out to the rest of the industry, which is contrasting finish of ceramic. Now initially it was enough to just make a ceramic watch. That was the state of the art. Today it's important to be able to facet it, shape it, polish it, and satin finish it for contrast. Although it is monotone, it is not monotonous. So perhaps a little bit of contradiction in the same term, pronounced two different ways. Nevertheless, you can see that there are polished facets and satin facets, and the watch works better aesthetically for that differentiation. Now, the dial of the watch can be a little bit bewildering for a number of reasons. First, because like the Hublot Aero design, it is completely open right down to the plates and bridges of the caliber 9004 movement. And then there is that foudroyant, a little bit bewildering at first. It makes perfect sense. If you have a watch that operates via its second escapement, right under my thumb, at 360,000 vibrations per hour, with the ability to measure 1/100th of a second, you don't put that indicator on a subdial. You make it as big as possible so that when you actually stop the watch, you can read via a red index tip 1/100th of a second. So by spreading the 100 fractions of a second around the full outer circumference of the dial, you make that 1/100th of a second scale readable. Now, of course, you do lose any capacity to measure beyond 30 minutes, but this is a watch that's all about micro precision, not macro readings. You can see there are actually, at that angle, full indices applied to read the hours and the minutes. They are luminescent, so though the watch is, again, possibly more readable in the dark, nevertheless there are clear reference points to read it during the day. There's also a solid dial variant of the watch available in titanium for those who are a little bit more traditional. At 12 o'clock there's a power reserve scale for the chronograph. It can run for 50 minutes total. The automatic system only energizes the time-telling functions of the watch, so the 10 beat per second El Primero escapement is wound by the unidirectional winding mass on the back. And unidirectional winding is new to the El Primero family. Traditionally, all variants have been either manually wound in rare cases or bidirectionally automatic wound. Unidirectional winding, an upgrade in efficiency that's added to this variant. So the watch can wind itself to tell the time, but to run the chronograph, you have to wind the watch via its non-screw-down crown, though it has 100-meter water resistance, to energize the 50-minute power reserve of the second escapement. Now the watch features, as you can see, no date. So take note, there's nothing hiding there. There's absolutely no date indicator for you to miss. So if you're looking for it, you can stop now. Otherwise, you have a wonderful view of the caliber 9004, which features 53 jewels and 293 parts. There are some important ways in which this differs from a conventional El Primero movement. First of all, it arguably has more in common with the Tag Heuer caliber 360 from the middle of the last decade than with any Zenith, though the El Primero's basic running gear and 10 beat per second escapement, as well as 50-hour time-telling power reserve, are retained. You may have heard that there was going to be silicon hairspring technology in this model. That did not come to pass, as ferrous hairsprings are used for both of the escapements, the one which you can see with its separate shock protection for the chronograph, and the other one that's right about at 7 o'clock for the time of day. Now, one thing that is notable is that the time-telling functions of the watch, and you can just see the anchor and escape wheel skeletonized and silhouetted under my thumb. Those are silicon, unlubricated, and operate with high efficiency over the long term. Because it will be operating generally less often, conventional stones and oiling are used for the high-speed chronograph escapement. It's a conventional metal wheel, metal anchor with synthetic rubies, oiled and lubricated for use. Now the watch does have a distinctive sound to it. It sounds like a wind-up toy when it's operating. I'm going to do a sound capture at the end of this video, so stay tuned, but suffice to say, it has a unique sound to it, and you can hear it at arm's length in a quiet room. Next to a tourbillon escapement, this is one of the most vocal watches I've ever heard. 2 drivetrains, 2 escapements, 2 balances, 2 anchors and escape wheels, 2 separate mainspring barrels for the functions of time and chronograph, 100-meter water resistance, despite the fact that it's not a screw-down crown. So it has that capability. You just have to make sure you put it on a water-resistant band available from Zenith. Now, I'm also going to mention, because it's worth drawing some distinctions between this and a conventional El Primero, this is the only application of hacking seconds that you will find in an El Primero. It is not a feature that is germane to the El Primero series, has not been since 1969, though the Elite caliber has it. The LP never did. For the first time with the 9004, you have that capability to synchronize precisely to a reference timer, and with a 1/100th of a second foudroyant, this watch is all about the precision. You can see and you can purchase this watch on our website. And we're back for our sound check. Before we go any farther, I want to add that this caliber 9004 El Primero based high-speed chronograph does feature a COSC chronometer certificate. So all of these 9004s are certified chronometers. One more feather in its cap, but this is a watch, quite frankly, that can speak for itself. And here you go.